Good morning, friends. I'm actually traveling back home. I've been in Arizona for the last few days. I'll tell you about that at the end of this video, but I wanted to just leave you a nugget for this weekend, just to encourage you, maybe even challenge you. Something that happened earlier this week. I was in the back patio and my daughters were playing in the living room when all of a sudden I heard this crash. It sounded like something fell. And my instinct as a father was to think maybe one of them fell. And so I stood up, I ran to the living room and I said, "Hey, are you okay?" When out walks my oldest daughter and she runs up to me and she hugs my legs and she's crying. And she said, Daddy, I'm sorry, I messed up, I did something." I said, "Well, what'd you do, baby?" She said, I knocked over the plant that we have next to the TV and I made a big mess. And she was crying, she was emotional, and she said, "But Daddy, you said that if I ever mess up and if I ever do something wrong, that all I have to do is just come to you and tell you the truth, and you'll show me grace and you won't be angry with me. And so are you mad at me?" And I said, "Well, baby, first of all," I said, "are you okay? It sounded like you fell. Did you fall?" And she said, "No, I didn't fall, Daddy." She said, "I just made a huge mess in the living room." And I was like, "That was all that happened? You just knocked over the plant and there's a huge mess?" And she was like, "Yeah, Daddy, but you said that if I ever do something bad or I make a mess, all I have to do is come and tell you the truth and you won't be angry and you'll show me grace." And I kneeled down, I grabbed her, I said, "Baby, look at me." I said, "Everything's okay. I just thought that you fell, and so I was scared, and so I came to the living room, but you're saying that you made a mess, but it was an accident." And here's what I was reminded of. The enemy of our soul always wants to make us remember the past mistakes, past ways that we have said things that maybe hurt someone. He's always trying to make us look back and look at the past. I think of the story in Genesis 19 where Lot and his wife are running away from Sodom and Gomorrah because God was destroying that city, and how the enemy got Lot's wife to think of the past, to think of how things were behind her. And inevitably, she ended up turning into a pillar of salt. And I think the enemy of our soul does the same thing. He wants us to look at the past, to remember past mistakes, past moments when we have made a huge mess. And I think even in this pandemic, even in this quarantine, he's wanting us to look at the past way of doing things, of missing the comfort of how we used to do things, even how we used to do church. He wants us to always look at the past when God is saying, "No, I want you to look forward. I want you to keep running because I have something different planned for you." So my encouragement for all of us, including myself, is remember what God says in His Word. Remember the words that He tells us, the fact that He has a plan for us, like He says in Jeremiah, plans for us to prosper. So remember those things, those words. But also remember the beautiful words that if we confess our sins, if we confess past mistakes, if we confess even ways that we mess up now, God is just to forgive us of our sins. I hope that encourages you, that blesses you. So here's the reason why I was in Arizona. I'm going to actually ask that you would be praying for my oldest sister, Erica. A couple of weeks ago, the doctor gave her the bad news that they found cancer in her uterus. And so the reason I was in Arizona was because on Friday, she actually had surgery to remove her uterus. We're praying and we're believing that the cancer was contained within the uterus and that it didn't spread. The good news so far is that my sister Erica is already at home. She's already in her home with my mom and my other sister. We brought her home yesterday, so that's great news. The other great news is that when she came out of surgery, the doctor called us and said, visually, from what we could see, it didn't look like the cancer spread. Now, obviously, they have to run some tests with the uterus, and that's going to take a couple of days before they can actually tell us for sure that they got all the cancer out. But friends, I just want to ask that you would be praying for my oldest sister, Erica. God bless you guys. I love you, and we'll see you next week.